All right, we do head to minicamp tomorrow. Last week, before the break, before the long month of nothing, before we just waited out for what roster moves are coming for the Pittsburgh Steelers and what's to come during training camp, this will be the first time that we see all 90 guys on the field together in the South Side. Still not as much contact. Takes a little bit of a step forward, and you'll probably wear some shoulder pads one day or something, but still nothing full blown. We leave OTAs, 3 weeks of OTAs. We head to minicamp. We've already talked about everything we're looking at, and we'll have plenty of updates tomorrow and Wednesday and so on and so forth. We are 3 weeks in. What stands out about this team? What stands out about the Pittsburgh Steelers that maybe you were looking for or weren't looking for that has kind of slapped you in the face when it comes to what this team is, who this team is, and where this team could be going as we move forward?
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway is kind of the patience that they've had in terms of roster building. I think we've talked all about their sense of urgency, their desire to not just get back to the postseason, improve on it. And I think at different points this season, it was like, okay, we have this long checklist of holes that the Steelers need to fill. They made their cuts, they made their roster moves, and here's what they need to do to make this roster perfect and competitive going into the next year. And they did it kind of piecemeal, piece by piece. They added the quarterbacks. They traded Deontay Johnson. They had Dante Jackson, but still, is that the move? Then they add Patrick Queen. Then they get Deshaun Elliott too. Then in the middle of OTAs they add Cam Sutton as well. You look at a lot of these holes that they have and used to have, they filled these very slowly, and every time that they seemed like they ran out of options or that there wasn't anyone that they could turn back to, no one left to sign to improve this roster, they kind of pull something out of their hats and they kind of figure something out. And I think watching it kind of come together on the field was pretty cool. I think Dante Jackson, people can have a lot more confidence in him than maybe they did before. I think the team has a ton more confidence. I think I have a lot more confidence in Dante Jackson. And then you add Cam Sutton in there. Obviously, that changes things as well. I've been talking about the receiver room, how I feel a little bit better about their pass catchers than I did before. And I think the next step is seeing when some pads come on and seeing how this offensive line shakes out. I think that's really the last kind of hurdle that you have to cross. Maybe a receiver comes or maybe it doesn't, but I think you can look at the progression of this team, the moves that they've made, the patience they've had, not saying, okay, we're going to reach for this receiver because we feel like we have to. We're going to reach for this big name corner or safety because we feel like we have to. They're finding guys who fit. They're finding their guys. They're finding guys who fit not only on the field but in their budget, and that's taken some time. But I feel like the longer that we've taken a look at this team, the better that they look, quite honestly. And I think that's testament just to how they build their roster and how they've done it kind of slowly and not in super flashy ways all the time. It's a lot of places that look really solid right now when I think you were expecting, massive names to come fill these holes.
I agree. I agree. I think that Omar Khan deserves a ton of praise, and I like that it's not all massive moves. I think when you look at teams of the past, you look at the team that always stands out to me is the Mark Sanchez Jets here, where they just added every superstar they could possibly get to come and join this team so that they can make a push for the playoffs. And it just didn't work. Like, they got to the playoffs. I think they lost to New England, I want to say,
that's
season.
A safe bet.
Yeah, it's probably is a safe bet. It was the Rex Ryan year, or one of the Rex Ryan years. It doesn't always work out the same way that it works out in the NBA or in the MLB. If you stack a team with a bunch of superstars in the NFL, sometimes it works. I think you need that missing piece. You need that Tom Brady. You need that Patrick Mahomes to lead and coordinate this group so that it works out the way that you want it to work out. The Steelers didn't do that. They went out and got a bunch of names that are really good, starting material, starters across the league that people are going to question, that they looked at and went, yeah, Dante Jackson, we'll get a lot of heat for that. We'll get a lot of heat for Deshaun Elliott instead of Justin Simmons.
Even Patrick Queen, like taking him away from Roquan. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna get all these guys. The Steelers went out and got a collective group of guys that people looked at and said, I don't know if that's going to work. And it looks like it could work. Deshaun Elliott looks scary. Like, he's the one. Dante Jackson looks good. He looks fast. There's little worries for me with Dante. He just looks like a veteran starter in the NFL. That's who he looks like. Deshaun Elliott, every time I look at him, I go, dude, you are freakish looking human being. Scary. Like muscles have muscles. That should not happen. That's who Deshaun Elliott looks like. And it's across the board. And it's for 2 years now. It's Isaac Seumalo. It's Nate Herbig making some moves. It's Jeremiah Moon having an opportunity just to be outside linebacker 4. Like, that's who it's Van Jefferson impressing when nobody thought Van Jefferson would impress, or Scotty Miller coming through after all the heat he got. That I agree with you. I think that their patience and the way that they went about roster building, massive this season. And that's all credit to Omar Khan. My biggest takeaway on this or through 3 weeks is the defense is going to be good, and we knew the defense was going to be good. I think the defense has an opportunity to do something crazy. I think the defense has an opportunity to be elite, if that's the word you want to use. One of the top 5 defenses in the NFL, maybe even better than that. There's just no holes on this defense that I look at and go, that's a concern. None. And even the ones that are concerning, they have options, and those options seem to be good. Down to who's going to be behind Cam Hayward. Dean Lowry is not a massive name. He's a good enough name. He's a reliable name. He's a dude who's got 80 starts in the NFL. That's a guy that I'm okay with having around. There are no holes, and because of that, there are minimal sleepers that we get to talk about, which is fine, but I'd rather minimal sleepers and elite defense, and that's where the Steelers are, and I don't think that there's a part of this defense that they've missed on. I think every single part, especially if Cam Sutton doesn't look at a massive suspension, it's a pretty complete defense, and one that could be scary, scary good.
Yeah, it's not just it's not just no holes. It's depth too. You know, it's even if even if a hole does pop up because of an injury or something like that, or Cam Sutton suspension, I think there are guys who can step up and capably fill that role, at least in the short term. Like, your backups, if you're the Steelers, are some of the better ones that they're in as good as situations as I think you can hope for. I can't say they're the best backups in the league or anything, but I think you feel so confident about what those guys can do behind these stars, these top line guys that you got in free agency through trades, everything like that. There's Peyton Wilson behind Landon Roberts and Patrick Queen. There's Darius Rush behind Joey Porter and Dante Jackson. There's Keanu Benton, Dean Lowry,
Deontay KZ.
Yeah, DeMonte KZ. We'll see what DeMarvin Leal can bring this year. Like, there's everything from top line starters to depth to guys who have some potential that you can experiment with a little bit too. Like, it's a little boring on the defensive side of the ball, like you said, but that's a good thing, I think, if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Exactly. It's boring. I thought that the other day. I was sitting around trying to come up with whatever I could come up with to either talk about or write or talk about on here, and it's just minimal. And what's going on? Why are we only talking about wide receivers and quarterbacks? The defense just looks that good, and they look scary good. And I think that's the thing, is if Darius Rush emerges, if Nick Herbig becomes a monster, like, there are so many pieces to this defense that could be, if Cole Holcomb comes back healthy, like, there are so many pieces that you're not missing. And it's not, in years past, it was just fill the gaps. This year, just like you said, they constructed it in a way where everything fits, and this is a unit. And yeah, that unit could be elite. It could be very, and the thing is, TJ's been in Europe for like 3 weeks. Right. So we haven't even, scary TJ hasn't even shown up yet. Alex Highsmith looks ridiculous. Cam Hayward's been here for 2 days. Like, there's a lot of potential when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. I think it could be pretty nuts. We'll see what happens.